Coming up on a special edition of This Week in Politics.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This weekend marks the 50th anniversary of one of the seminal achievements of mankind, the first steps of a human being onto the surface of another planetary body. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen. Thank you for being with us tonight. American Neil Armstrong would not have been the first human to step foot on the moon if not for the political will and backing of the United States government. That historic moment happened on July 20th, 1969. But the seeds for it were planted more than a decade earlier, in 1957, when Russia launched the Sputnik satellite, proving that Russians had the technology and the know-how to put an object into orbit around the Earth. This was in the midst of the Cold War, and the concern was if Russia could do this with a satellite, could they somehow use it to a military advantage? The Cold War had given birth to a space race, one where the Russians would score another early victory. On April 12, 1961, they successfully put cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin in orbit around the Earth for a flight that lasted 1 hour and 48 minutes before safely bringing him back to Earth. The Russians had put the first man into space. A little more than 6 weeks later, on May 25, 1961, President John Kennedy appeared before Congress, asking them to approve billions in new funding for an ambitious program that would make the United States a leader in space exploration.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
Kennedy's proposal engendered a lot of skepticism among Washington lawmakers. Should that money be spent? And if it is, could the goal of putting a man safely on the moon really be achieved? Just 10 months after Kennedy's speech in February of 1962, the United States successfully put John Glenn into space. He orbited the Earth in a nearly 5-hour flight. The achievements NASA was making in space exploration prompted Kennedy to give one of the most well-known speeches of his time in office at Rice University in September of 1962. And he said the United States would put a man on the moon.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
14 months after that speech, Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas.
We have received word that 2 priests who were with the president have reported that the president is dead.
Kennedy's plan to put man on the moon would now be in the hands of Lyndon Johnson.